What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I'm going to bring you some must-know White Forest Toybox combos. Now, most of these combos are going to be utilised depending on what version you are playing of the deck, but the idea is that Toybox, whether you want to go and make your way to a Dragoon, whether you want to make your way to a Gen X, you do have loads of different variations that will help you do it, and in each of the combos I'm going to show you different versions and different routes that you can take so that you have an idea of which route you'd want to go with. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. So, we're going to start off by activating the Toybox, which will allow you to place a soldier and a tank into your spell and trap zone. You'll now conduct your normal summon using the Estella, and at this point what you're going to want to do is send the Toy Soldier from the field to the grave. In doing so, you'll resolve the Estella, summoning you out your Sylvie, and you'll be able to go chaining 1 Sylvie, chaining 2 Toy Soldier. Soldier comes back to the board, you'll resolve the Sylvie to add you your Tales of the White Forest, and then you'll have the ability of resolving the Toy Soldier in order to grab you a second toy box. Now, there is a way that instead of adding the toy box, you actually search yourself out of Yugioh, or if you're playing any tech cards like a Spirit, the Aritara, you can actually just get that instead. I quite like going for the toy box because it does give me more spells and traps to send throughout the plays should I need it. Now at this exact point here, you've got your Tales of the White Forest. You can use it now if you want to. It doesn't make much of a difference when you use it now or later. But the idea is that I'm just going to show you that you sync these two together, get you into an Immortal Dragon, and then sync with your Immortal Dragon and the Toy Soldier to get you into your Nib protection before you make any more summons, because this is your 5th summon, and at current, this can protect you from a light and a dark monster effect. Now you're going to activate the Tails. This will then allow you to add the LZ. You'll then be able to use LZ's effect, sending tank from the field to the graveyard in order to summon itself down. And at this point, you'll be able to resolve the LZ to add you your Yugioh. And then, of course, you'll be able to resolve the tank, summon itself back to the board. Tank is actually really important because it gives you that ability to change it into a tuner should you need it, but also change it into a level 2 should you need it. So now at this point here, you're going to want to summon down the Yugioh to control a White Forest monster. Use Yugioh's effect to send the Toybox. Now obviously the benefit of this one is when you do make your next synchro summon, you will need to send a spell or trap, which is why Toybox is really important because it guarantees you to have that spell in this combo. Obviously, in the scenario, you could get a random draw that could be that spell or trap, or of course, if you'd already opened up a spell and trap, this is when you can directly search out a light level 4, but I'm just showing you the exact cards you need to go for if you don't already have them. So you're then going to synchro into another level 6. This time will be the Yugioh. Yugioh's effect will trigger, send in the toy box, so you've got the guaranteed option to do that and the guaranteed option to draw a card. If you don't have that additional spell or trap in the hand, then of course you won't be able to get the random draw off the back of the Yugioh. Keep that in mind. In doing so, your Yugioh will then allow you to add the Iris Sword Soul, and you'll be able to trigger the Estella in the graveyard to summon it back to the board, giving you that level 2 that you're going to need. But that's where tank can come into play, is if your opponent does banish this or stop this, you can still get access to an Estella, or LZ, sorry, for your level 2. You're then going to synchro these two together. This will then get you into your Diabell Queen, and at this point, of course, Diabell Queen can trigger to add you back either a toy box or the Tails. Now, as I'm going to mention in most of my other combos, the benefit of either of these two is this will only take 1 slot along the back row, this will take up 3. So in this scenario, we're probably going to go for the Tails, but of course, if you do go for the toy box, it's not a hard once per turn to set the Soldier and the Tank, meaning that when you do set them and send them during your opponent's turn, you'll be able to summon them back and then gain you more resource. We'll take the Tails in this one, because keeping in mind this hasn't actually been sent from the field to the graveyard yet to reset, so you still have that option available to you should you need to. You'll then be able to use the ability of the Yugioh or the Sylvie in the graveyard to summon it back to the board and put back the Yugioh into the extra deck. This now gives you a monster on the board that has its effects negated, so you can summon down the Iris Sword Soul. At this exact moment in time, it really is up to you on where you would like to continue to go. You've got the ability to make a rank 8 should you need to, or of course in this scenario you have the ability to make another synchro level 8. So your other synchro level 8, depending on what you want to have access to, can very easily be something like a Cyframe Lord Omega, which in my opinion is actually quite useful if you do open up a Bestial and another way of getting a level 4 to the board, because this will give you the ability to rip 2 from your opponent's hand. You've got Draco Berserker of the Tenyu, which can be another nice interruption as a big boss monster as well. And then, of course, the defensive option that you'll see in the second combo is the Visas Aritara, which will allow you to add a counter trap to this end board. Because we are not specifically locked into synchros or anything else, I'm just going to show you that you can link these two together and go into the Silo Hat Rabbit, and this is going to allow you to add basically a mini solemn warning to the board as well. So rather than the counter trap, you go for your Yugioh, which will allow you to then pop a card as well. So we're going to be able to set this to the board. You can also set the tail, so you've got a card that will guarantee to be sent off of the back of the Queen, which will allow you to reset. You're going to have that one card that you've drawn fresh, and then you're still going to have the 3 additional cards from your opening hand as well, so you're relatively stacked. During your opponent's turn, obviously you have the ability of activating the statue. This will then allow you to pop a back row with the rabbit, as well as having this effect floating around on your opponent. You have the ability of the Diabell Queen to send the tails, which will of course will reset it, and in doing so will allow you to summon out one of 2 options, either your Zapper Shrimp to go into a Synchro level 10, or of course you can bring out your Book of Eclipse in the form of the Sylvia. Now doing so, this will then give you another monster on the board that gives you the ability to recycle it back to the extra deck with the Rusia, and this of course will allow you to recycle stuff like Estella and of course LZ as well, depending on when you've activated certain cards and effects. As it currently stands, again, you still only have lights and darks in the graveyard, so you're going to be able to negate a light and a dark monsters effect with the Gen X 0. So you're kind of showing your opponent that you've got a bit of an option. If they are more monster focused, you have ways of dealing with it. If they're not monster focused and they're probably more board breaker focused, then the next combo is going to be the one that you're going to want to watch. So for the second 2-card combo, I'm going to show you an alternative route that you can go down that will also be allowing you to add 2 Omni Negates to the board rather than a direct light or dark to the board. Now, this exact same combo can be played out with Estella and Toybox, and it will allow you to get to your protection before the 5th summon, protecting from the Nibiru. However, I'm going to show you a different route of what happens if you don't open up the Estella and the Toybox, and you open up a Soldier and an LZ instead. So you're going to start off by placing the Toy Soldier as a spell into the spell and trap zone. You're going to summon down the LZ, sending the Toy Soldier to special summon it out. You'll then resolve the LZ, allowing you to search out the Estella, and then resolve the Toybox, summoning itself back and searching you out the Toybox. You'll now activate the Toybox, which will allow you to place a soldier and of course a tank into the spell and trap zone, and then you'll conduct your normal summon off of the back of the Estella, using the effect to send Toy Tank. Now, if you are worried about running into Nibiru territory too early, then you can choose to send the Toybox or the Soldier, because you can actually send Toybox a little bit later on in the combo. It really is up to you. So you're going to resolve the Estella, which is going to let you special summon out the Sylvie, and then you're going to go chaining 1 Sylvie, chaining 2 Tank. Tank will summon itself back, Sylvie will then allow you to add the Tails. We're going to activate Tails now, which will allow us to search out the Rusia, but don't worry, we're not going to use that just yet, because as you can see, we have a full board. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your Sylvie and you're going to take your Estella, and this is going to allow you to go into your Muddy Mud Dragon. You'll then use Muddy Mud Dragon's effect to allow it to fuse with itself, using it as Albaz, and then any light monster. In this scenario, we're going to use Toy Soldier, because sometimes Tank can come in handy to get you a tuner onto the board, or can get you a level 2 back from the graveyard. So this will then fuse into your Albion Dragon. You'll then be able to trigger Albion Dragon, banishing itself from the field as the Dragon, and banishing Muddy Mud Dragon from the graveyard as Dark Magician, in order to get you into your Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Now, keep in mind, this will be your opening hand, so you should still have 3 more cards, which will give you enough discard fodder for the Dragoon, but the combo does not end there. You'll now be able to special summon down the Rusia. You can use Rusia's effect to get you that 1 random draw should you wish, and you can send Soldier or Box. It really is up to you. Then what you do is you'll sync into another level 6 using the Rusia and of course the LZ, and this will allow you to get you into your Roselia. Roselia will then send the last card that you haven't sent off of the Toybox engine right now, being the Soldier, and this will then allow you to add your Irish Sword Soul from the deck to the hand. This will also allow you to trigger the Estella's effect in the graveyard to summon it back to the board, which is going to be very helpful for our next play. Because what you're going to do here is you're going to synchro both of these together to go into an 8, and your Diabell Queen will now give you the ability to recycle 1 of 2 cards. Now, there are 2 different ways you can do this. If you recycle the Tails, the benefit you're going to have is if the rest of your hand is stuff like droplets, imperms, and cards you need to set, Tails will only take up 1 space along the back row, and if you choose to send this during your opponent's turn with the Diabell Queen, you'll actually be able to reset it so you maintain that advantage. However, if you wanted to get a search of any level 4 light, which can be a Sylvie for a restart of the next turn, you're better off going for the Toybox, because Toybox to set into the spell and trap zones is not a hard once per turn, which is really quite important. The only downside is the Toybox itself will take up 3 zones along the back row, so you're only going to have 2 more zones to play around with, being droplets and imperms, so keep that in mind. In this scenario, we'll add back the Toybox just so you can kind of see the additional line of advantage we're going to gain. You're now going to want to make sure that you use either the Rusia or of course the Sylvie's effect in the graveyard to summon it back to the board and put the Roselia back to the extra deck. It's very important that you remember to summon down the Irish Sword Soul at this position, because this is the only time you're going to have a monster with its effects negated on the field. The next play you're going to want to make is you're going to want to synchro with your Rusia and of course your tank to go into a level 8, being the Visas Aritara. What this is going to allow you to do is actually search yourself out a very nice and powerful counter trap in the form of the Vanadium Reframing. Then before you end your turn, you're going to want to overlay the Irish Sword Soul and of course the Visas Aritara and go into Hope Harbinger. This is basically just going to upgrade the ability to pop a card from the extra deck to negate a spell and redirect attacks. You don't have to make this summon if you don't want to, but the only benefit, like I said, is you're basically turning Irish Sword Soul into the Hope Harbinger. The only difference is that the Reframing won't negate and destroy, but it will still negate, so it really does depend on where you want to take it. So you're then going to be able to overlay both of those. You're going to set the Reframing, you're going to activate the Toybox. This is then going to allow you to put the tank, and of course it's now going to let you put the soldier. And this is why I'm saying it's very important, because considering one of your zones along the back row is going to be the Reframing, if you do have an impermanent droplet, you're probably going to want to go for your tails to add back rather than the Toybox. But with this scenario here, you're still going to have your 1 card in hand, plus the additional 3 cards from your starting hand as well. Obviously, this one being the brand new one that we drew off the Rusia. And then as you're going to play through your opponent's turn, you've got that guaranteed Omni Negate off the back of Dragoon, you've got an Omni Negate off the back of the Reframing, you've got a Spell Negate off the back of the Hope Harbinger, and then of course you've got the ability of the Diabell Queen to send something, either Soldier or Tank, probably going to be Soldier, to the graveyard in order to then summon out something like your Zapper. And this, of course, will allow you to use Soldier's effect to summon itself back to the board, which will then allow you to search out from the deck a starter in the form of the Sylvie, so that even if your opponent does break the board, you have a starter to go again the next turn. You've got your full hand of 5 still at the exact moment in time, and of course you've got the ability for Shrimp to go into a 6, or what you're going to do more times than not is go into a 10 using these 2 cards right here, and in doing so you're just going to set yourself up even more advantage and recycle capabilities, because you can very easily go into something like a Chaos Angel. This will then allow you to banish 1 card on your opponent's field, and then you still have the ability to trigger a Rusia, or of course you can trigger a Sylvie in the graveyard to spin back the Diabell Queen, summon it back to the board, and this will then allow you to add the Ozette back to your hand for recyclability, and you also have the ability of a Stella when you send a spell or trap with your Diabell Queen to summon itself out as well. So you've got the so to add it back to the hand, to summon it back. Woo. Keep jumping about between the 2. So it gives you loads of resource depending on what you need. And like I said, this is your hand right now, and all you can do is guarantee to lose 1 if you choose to activate the Dragoon effect. Other than that, you've got 3k boss monsters, if not 3k plus, in the form of the Chaos Angel, a counter trap, and everything else that you could possibly need. So that's it for the second combo. Now we're going to reset, and I'm going to show you another combo, just so you can kind of see a bit of more variation with the deck as well. So the final 2-card combo I'm going to show you involves double Toybox. I know this doesn't seem like an initial combo off the start, but once you see it get going, you'll see that it's probably one of the better combos the deck actually has, which is crazy. So you can start by activating your first Toybox. This will allow you to place your Soldier and your Tank from the deck into the Spell and Trap Zone, and then you'll activate the second Toybox and then use the second ability to destroy up to 2 cards in your Spell and Trap Zone. Goodbye Tank and Soldier, hello Starter and Extenders. Both of these will now trigger to summon themselves back to the board, and you'll be able to trigger Soldier's effect because you control Toybox to search you out a Sylvie from the deck to the hand. You'll then be able to normal summon down the Sylvie, which will allow you to grab a Tales of the White Forest, and you're going to activate Tales of the White Forest to grab you an Ozette. You'll then be able to use Elzette's effect, sending one of the Toyboxes from field to graveyard to search you out an Estella. Don't worry, I know we've already used our normal summon, but that's where Tank is going to come into play. You'll then synchro your Sylvie with your Ozette, which will get you into the Rusia. Rusia's effect will then send the final Toybox from the field to the graveyard, and this will grab you Woes of the White Forest. Yes, I know, we're not going for Irish Sword Soul on this combo. You're then going to set the Woes or keep it in the hand, doesn't make much of a difference. You'll then be able to special summon down the Estella by tributing off the Toy Tank, and then use Estella's effect to send the Woes from the field to the graveyard, or the hand to the graveyard, to search you out your, special summon you out the Rusia. This will then allow you to reset the Woes of the White Forest back to the board. You now have the ability, should you want to use the Rusia to send this to the graveyard, but you're going to want to save that for 1 point, because what you could do is you're going to synchro these 2 together, and this is going to allow you to get into your Diabell Queen. In doing so, Diabell Queen's effect will now trigger, and this will allow you to add back one of the spells from the graveyard. Now we're going to add back Tails because Tails has not been sent and reset this entire turn yet. So by being able to use Rusia's effect to send the Tails and reset it, you'll be able to draw 1 random card, but you're also going to be able to trigger off a chain of events of Tails to reset and a Stella to summon back to the board. That's not all it yet, because we still have Sylvie in the graveyard that can recycle the Roselia. You still have so much more to go. Now you've got a couple of different options here. If you wanted to, you can conduct a Link 2 and go into the Hat Rabbit to set you out a continuous trap card, but we're actually going to go one further, and we're going to synchro these two together in order to get into the Visas Aritara, which is going to allow you to add a counter trap to the end board. So the Visas Aritara's effect is going to trigger to allow you to grab the Reframing, and you're going to be able to set that to the board. And because we haven't finished our combo just yet, you're going to use Rosia or of course Sylvie to spin back the Roselia to the extra deck and summon it back as a level 4 tuner. You'll then synchro these two together and go into a level 6 of Muddy Muddragon. Use Muddy Muddragon's effect in order to fuse 2, so you can actually fuse with the Visas Aritara if you want to. And in doing so, you're going to be using your Muddy Muddragon, treated as Albaz and a light monster, in order to get you into your Albion the Branded Dragon. Trigger Albion's effect and enable you to banish a dragon from the graveyard treated as Dark Magician and a dragon from the field itself to get you access to your Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Now because of that draw off of the Rosia, you've got that guaranteed discard in the hand, but keep in mind as well, you're also going to still have your 3 remaining cards from the start of your turn, and you're backing up your Dragoon and your Diabell Queen with a spell that will be reset once you send it off of the back of the Queen, and still have the ability of getting an Estella back to the board and LZ back to the hand, and more so. But then you're also going to have the ability of activating Woes in order to special summon a White Forest monster from the hand or deck, and then immediately after the effect resolves, Synchro Summon 1 White Forest Synchro monster. So the best thing about this is as long as you have the ability to trigger back either the Rosia or the Estella, you then get the missing piece, which will be the tuner or the non-tuner, and this will then also allow you to add to your end board loads more forms of interruption. So, just as an example, the idea is that if we play for our opponent's turn, you've got a couple of different options here. Option number 1, when they activate a card effect, you activate the Queen. This will allow you to summon out your Shrimp Zapper, or your Zapper Shrimp. This will allow you to discard a card to deal with a back row if you need to, but then it also gives you the ability to synchro into a level 10, be in the form of the Chaos Angel, which will allow you to banish 1. You then obviously have the ability, because you sent a spell or trap with the back of the Diabell Queen, being the tails, to reset itself. You'll then have the ability, of course, to be summoning back something like the Estella. And then you have the ability of activating Woes, if you want to. This will just allow you to get another monster to the board without needing to spin back the Diabell Queen as of yet. But the idea is this will allow you to special summon from the hand or deck. So this will get you another Sylvie into rotation should you need it. Or of course it can get you another Rosia into rotation if you play it. But by being able to activate Woes, it will get these two to the board, and this will give you the ability to instantly Synchro Summon and go into a Book of Eclipse on your opponent's side of the board. There we go, we're going to flip all of our opponent's monsters back face down. Now the best thing about this is you still have the ability of Dragoon, discard a card to negate, you still have the ability of Refraining to negate, and then if it still keeps going, you still have the ability, if you haven't used it already, to use Sylvie to spin the Sylvira back to the extra deck, and then also you have the ability of the Rosia to spin back your Diabell Queen. So you've recycled all of those materials. Yes, of course, these aren't going to be doing anything right now, but the idea is that once you draw for your turn, this will be your current hand of 4 cards. You still have a Dragoon that would now be up to 4k because it would have already negated something. You've got a 3500 Chaos Angel, and you've got 2 level 4s on the board. Not to mention, the chances are, as you've continued to make your plays, you've probably recycled the LZ back to the hand, and if you haven't, because you control a spellcaster, you can just activate Tails and search out what you need. You would just need a spell or trap to be sent. But even then you just go, okay, cool, activate Tails, search out a Sylvie, normal summon said Sylvie, search out a spell or trap that I may or may not need, or just go for a level 2 non-tuner, normal summon it, no effect, synchros into a 6, work your way back up, and ideally with these two here right now doing 7500 damage on the board, you're going to be pushing for an OTK. So that's just kind of one of the crazy examples that will adapt depending on what you're facing, how it's being faced, and everything else in between. But the idea is you have a very solid end board that can go down a couple of different ways depending on the route that you would like to play. I would love to say that the extra deck could fit both the Dragoon, Albion, Muddragon, and of course the Gen X option in it if you wanted to, which it can do, but it's very rare that you're going to get both on the board. In all honesty, unless you think you are up against Tempire and you're going to want to protect from the board breakers, that's where I'd be looking at going down the Visas Aritara route with a Dragoon rather than going down the Gen X route, with like a Dragoon or a Vanadium, but it really is up to you. I think this deck is incredibly fun. I love the variation between all of this. I love that you have so many different options, whether you want to go down the Rabbit, whether you want to go down the Dragoon route, the Gen X route, the Goatee Board Banish route. It is absolutely insane, and this is just like the Toybox version of the deck. This is before you start looking into the Eldritch version of the deck, the Dark Magician version of the deck, heck, even the Runic version of the deck. We all know how good this deck can be, and I can't wait to see how it does in the new format once that ban list finally drops. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been massively informative for you all. If you do have any questions at all, by all means, please put them in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them for you. But for now, as absolutely always, stay safe and, of course, happy dueling.